What's good, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. So today I am reviewing a TV series, an HBO TV series called Euphoria. It came out in June of this year, 2019, and I just found out about it recently. And a lot of subscribers, they said, Scott, you gotta watch this show. And then I had some friends of mine who had access to HBO and were like, yeah, you gotta watch it. They're right. You have to. I was telling them, all my subscribers, and they're like, they're right. Those of you who did mention Euphoria, thank you. I will take your advice on other shows in the future just based off of this recommendation. So just going forward throughout the rest of the review, want to say I'm going to be discussing topics of adult nature, of adult material. So if you are under 18, please click off of this video. Or if you don't want to have the show spoiled for you, click off of this video because I'm going to go into spoilers. There's too much material in this show not to touch on spoilers. All right, so Euphoria focuses on this group of high school kids. I'm pretty sure they're seniors. It doesn't specify, but just based off what goes on, I think they're seniors. And what is discussed in this show is sexual identity, drugs, just navigating who you are, dealing with the changes in your life, dealing with friendships, old ones, new ones, being able to express yourself or just having to suppress yourself. And that's a lot of what drives this show. The show is narrated by the character Rue, and in each episode, what thing I really liked is each new episode starts off with the backstory, kind of the childhood leading up to who these kids are in high school. The first one actually starts with our protagonist, our main character, Rue. She was befallen by tragedy. Her dad passed away. Her dad had cancer. She had to watch this person die. And before that, she was diagnosed with being bipolar. And after being bipolar and then having access to pain medication from her father, she got highly addicted to strong pain medication and drugs. Now, one thing I love about Rue throughout this show is she wears her who she is on her sleeve. There's no hiding who she is. She's been on drugs, she's gone to rehab, and that's just who she is. And she has no problem hanging out with who she likes, not hanging out with who she likes, speaking up. She's a very open character. She's conflicted, of course, and she's flawed, but you know about all her flaws, not only us as the audience, but everyone in the high school pretty much knows her fault. And Rue's sister, Gia, she saw her sister OD, and a lot of her decisions, bad mostly, are based off of what she saw her sister OD. And the mom is just doing the best. Rue lies she goes to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, so she lies there. She does fake drug tests. And, you know, she's kind of all over the place, but I'll kind of wrap her up and where she kind of starts to come together at the end. Now, another character closely with Rue is her friend Lexi. We don't get a lot about her, but I like her also. She is very well grounded. She's just always been there for her friends and her sister. Now, she's the one character that's not really sexually active. She's not into drugs and all that. She's just kind of there. In the second episode, we learn about Nate. Now, Nate is a character, like, even though these characters are flawed, I can kind of find some sympathies with them, and I'll get into that. But with Nate, I'm sure there's some sympathy involved with him, but I just don't like him. He's bitter, he's angry, he's jealous, he blackmails people, he uses dirt that he has on them to protect the dirt on him. He's not able to be himself. He's conflicted because his dad is also a POS, if you know what I mean. His dad is also someone who suppresses his emotions, who is not who he presents himself to be. So Nate and his dad, I cannot stand, because it's because everybody thinks they're perfect. Everybody thinks they're great, but they're not great. They're liars. They're phony. And only a few people know the facts about these people. Nate's dad, Cal, I think his name is, hooks up with Jules, who ends up being Rue's really close friend. Jules is a transgender person, and she's a free spirit. I love that character. She just doesn't care what anybody thinks about her as well, and that's why her and Rue, I think, get along so well, is there's no secrets. Jules is just a free spirit and but she also is doesn't really have a strong male figure in her life. And that's one theme that goes up throughout this show, is all the girls that are conflicted that we see, either with drugs, their identity of who they are. They either have no male figure in their life, they had a male figure that was in their life and then got on drugs and is out, or they just have an apathetic one. In Jules' case, her dad is just apathetic. He's just kind of there. He's not a bad dad, but he's not involved in her life as strongly as he probably should be. Nate's dad ends up hooking up with her, and Nate's dad does this. He just hooks up with teenagers and kids and through this app, and he's very disgusting. He's very deceiving, and later on in the show he gets called out on it, and you get to see him in a kind of weak moment when he faces Jules and saying, please don't tell my family about this, please don't tell me. And Jules is like, listen, I don't care. Listen, I got my issues, you got yours. I have no reason to say anything about any of this to anybody. Going back to Nate, the character you just want to get off your screen. I'm a big horror fan. He's just one of those characters that I'm like, get him off of here. Somebody needs to off him, get him off the screen. I just wanted to see him removed, but you know, we'll get into that when I get into the last episode. So Nate naturally dates the cheerleader, the popular girl, Maddie, who we learn about in a later episode, again with that backstory in the beginning, was in beauty pageants. So she's kind of always been the loved one, she's the angel, she's beautiful, all that. She's like the prom queen of the school type thing. Nate is abusive to her. Nate has anger issues based off his own childhood and his dad, Nate and his dad are like one and the same. They're both two guys that are ashamed of who they are, they suppress who they are, and then they take it out in anger on other people. He later on in the show gets abused by Nate, and instead of putting it on him, he manipulates her and has her cover for him by blackmailing other people involved. He's just the worst. He's just the worst. He tries to strangle her, he slaps her, he doesn't care about her, and she kind of caught him in his deviancy by calling some pictures on his phone, calling out who he might really be in real life, but who he's hiding and who he isn't. Now Lexi, Rue's best friend, her sister is Cassie, who is another prominent character in the show. She's kind of the T-H-O-T. She's the easy girl at the school. She dates a guy named McKay, who is the football player who had just graduated. He's in college. I like the way the show represents their relationship. He's dealing with his own issues, realizing he's not the king he was in high school, and he's dating just the girl that kind of like a lot of guys have been with. But Cassie, she's just trying to get her life on track. She had her dad dipped out on her. Her dad was kind of like the hunk of the neighborhood, the good-looking guy. Then he got on drugs. So she's another female character in this show who doesn't have a strong male presence in her life, and it shows. McKay is he's another character. A lot of these characters are good in their heart, but they don't make good decisions. And they're in high school. I mean, did all of us make great decisions in high school? No. I mean, we all made some mistakes, and that's what being young's for. But you can find some sympathies with some of them. Again, go back to Nate and Cal. I cannot. You know, McKay he's raised by the old school dad. You're an athlete, you're a man, suppress your feelings, just go out there and get all your feelings out on the football field. Which can work, but you know, life isn't lived on the football field. Life is lived in life. Now, another one of my favorite characters in this show is Kat. She is friends with Maddie, Nate's girlfriend, as well as Cassie. There's like this little friend group, but Kat is kind of splitting away because she kind of is, she's the big girl, and she's made to be ashamed of that toward the beginning of the show, and then she embraces it like no other later on. She embraces who she's becoming, the woman she's becoming. She's a writer. She's probably the most talented character and the most creative character. Her only flaw is really because she's so sexually active and she's just does whatever she wants. She has a hard time finding love, and she's trying to get rid of old friends, which I can certainly respect and relate to. Some people that aren't there for you later on in your life, and she had to get rid of those people, and she's better off for it. She's narrating the show, and we're seeing it through her eyes. Now, the main relationship that's focused on with Rue is her and Jules. Now, like I said, Jules is just kind of all over the place. She likes to be with people, she likes to be with guys, and but she doesn't have any shame about it. She just lives her life, right or wrong, as a free spirit. She just does what she wants. And that's where her and Rue get along. The other relationship that's interesting with Rue is that of her and her drug dealer, Fez. Now, I love Fez and his little brother. His little brother's my favorite character in the show. Ashtray. He's the first second grade dropout I've ever seen in any TV show or movie, but he's the smartest kid. He's one of the smartest characters in the show. And him and Fez, Ashtray and Fez, they're taking care of their grandmother, and their grandmother's like dying, but they sell drugs and they're trying to do it low key. If you've seen Scarface, they're trying to play it like Frank, fly low. And he gets involved with the kingpin, not the kingpin drug dealer, but a higher level drug dealer, and he tries to get Rue hooked on drugs. But Fez just is really looking out for Rue. He cuts her off, although he's making money off her. He likes her as a friend, and so he said, listen, I can't sell you drugs anymore. Rue flips out on him. She doesn't know what to do. She's constantly relapsing, but she realizes in the end that Fez is a good guy, and this asks for his forgiveness for being like that. And he says, listen, and everybody plays him off as being an idiot, but he's actually one of the smarter characters in the show. He does have some, he does slip up here and there, but for the most part, he's a very strong character. All these characters are going through their different arcs. Rue with her drug trip, Cassie with her trying to not be the THOT anymore, McKay trying to just pull real in his life and realize that he's not going to be the big star athlete, not the king anymore. Nate is just hiding who he is, and he's just a disgusting character. He beat up a guy. He beats up the one guy because he was with his girl, and the girl was just with him because she was trying to get revenge on you because you're an awful person. I was watching this show with my woman Q, and she was like, who are you in this show? I'm like, I'm the extra walking down the hallway that you don't see, that goes home, hangs out with his friends, gets a little bit, lifted, and goes home and just chills out. That's me. I'm the character you don't know about. My high school experience was nothing like this. It was like I did some experimenting and I was having fun, but I was doing nowhere near the stuff they do in this show. The images of the show, highly graphic, but they're trying to drive home the points. That's HBO, they're being extra. Our friends who put us onto this, Alex and Alicia, they described it as R-rated Degrassi, and I couldn't agree more. I didn't really watch a lot of Degrassi, but I know the basic of it, and this is it. Now Nate, he like I was saying, he blackmails people, he uses stuff against them, and he's holding Jules accountable because she sent him like nude pictures. Jules tells Rue, listen, I was with Cal, I was with that guy, I was with that Nate's dad. And Rue's like, no you weren't, that's like the king of the town. And then in the last episode, Rue calls out Nate. Now let me get into the last episode, because that's where I start to have some issues. First 7 episodes of this show, great storytelling. I love that you do the backstory on all the characters in there. The beauty queen, their childhood, they're growing up as an athlete, they're getting hooked on drugs, who they're becoming sexually, the whole I love how they presented that, and then they kind of blended together. Very well organized. Now here's my issues with the last episode. I wanted Nate and his dad to get some comeuppance. I needed them to get, there needed to be some payoff with them. Something needed to happen to them, and it didn't. The closest we got was they're at the prom, and outside the prom, Rue kind of calls him out. That was it. Like, she kind of says, your dad is this and that. Like, she uses her information that Jules told her, and just, that was it. And then Nate has like a little clash with his dad about manhood and all. I'm like, come on, man. Like, one of these characters, why didn't we get one of them getting caught, or the illusion they were getting caught? So I know y'all want a second season and I want to keep that juice flowing, but I hated those characters and nothing. Like I said, as a horror fan, usually I get them chopped off the screen. Nothing happened to these guys and it drove me crazy. Like, why didn't it happen? Before I get into the juicy details of the last episode and wrap everything up, I want to talk about just some little stuff I also liked about the show. The music was fantastic. They used new stuff. They use old stuff. One of my favorite songs ever, especially love song, A Song for You, covered by Donny Hathaway in the last episode, was fantastic. I don't think the song fit. I'm going to get into that in a moment. But the music was very well done, very well placed. I really liked all of that. And I love the Halloween episode. That was my favorite episode. There's something I always like with TV shows about the Halloween episode and what they're going to do, what's going to be the costumes. And Cassie, that was kind of her like expressing herself, and that was a conflict with her and McKay. She dressed up as Alabama from the movie True Romance. Now, not a lot of people have seen True Romance, and I saw it, I was like, that's awesome. She's Alabama from True Romance. That's so cool. Because I often, for Halloween, I dress up as characters that nobody knows, that well, like a couple people know. But so I like that, and then McKay told her to get out of it. I was like, just forget him. That's it. That's it with your relationship. He doesn't know good film, get him out. Getting into the juiciness of that last episode, what's happening at the end. They are at the prom, and I feel like the next season is gonna lead into graduation. But getting into the prom, Rue calls out Nate outside the prom. Nate acts like he doesn't care, but I can tell that something is gonna be happening. Again, I just wish there was more payoff. Now, Rue goes back inside after calling out Nate and goes to Jules and say, I just want to leave this town. I just want to leave. And Jules, being the free spirit who she is just like, all right, let's go. So next thing you know, they're at the train station, and last second, Rue starts having flashbacks of how her family's been there for her, and her sister, and her mom, and her dad, and then she just decides not to go, and then she relapses. She's been clean ever since her and Jules have had this tight friendship. After all of her relapse and all of her lies, she finally came clean, and now she relapses again last episode. Side by side with that, Cassie had become pregnant by McKay and is having an abortion. While that scene is happening, she's having like flashbacks of like her as a child ice skating and learning how to just like, I didn't like it. I didn't like those two scenes side by side. Rue, it's like the last 15 minutes. Rue and it going through her relapse and her flashbacks again. They're playing the song, a song for you, while she's having, and it didn't fit. It didn't fit at all, in my opinion. Like I get why, okay, she's thinking about her family, but there's a better way, better song to use, better way to present it. And then once she relapses, it turns into a Broadway musical. Yeah, I just didn't like the feel of that. It felt like too indie, too artsy. And there's nothing wrong with indie stuff, and there's nothing wrong with artsy type stuff, but it just didn't fit the rest of the show. And I was like, this is it? Because the show is so high intensity, and then it ends like with this Broadway musical representing her relapse and her trip that she's on in that moment, and like her high. And then side by side with that is Cassie just replaying her childhood while she's going through one of the most the most traumatic moment of her life. And I just didn't, I was like, it just didn't blend. It didn't fit well. And again, I wanted more payoff with Nate and his dad. I will watch the second season. I absolutely recommend the show. The show is fantastic. Anybody ask me about it, I'm gonna tell you I like it. I just didn't like that last episode. I felt like they ran out of steam, and it's hard to end when you have that high level of intensity. It's like going from 80 and hitting the brakes. I get it, but you have to have a gradual build to that stoppage. And they didn't. And again, there wasn't enough payoff with the bad characters. Again, great show. Thank you all for who recommended it to me. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any other TV show recommendations, I will consider them. I will look at them. I always watch the first 2 episodes of a show. If I'm into it, I'll continue to watch. If I'm not into it after 2 episodes, I will abandon it. I know there are a few people who want me to watch Game of Thrones. I will get into Game of Thrones. It won't be today, but that is a show I am going to get into and watch. And I'll probably do it like a vlog. But thank you guys for watching this. I greatly appreciate your time. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Take care.